So two big storylines for this one was going to be how is Terrence Steele going to do after the Denver game, and how are they going to generate pressure without Randy Gregory? What did you notice about those two storylines yesterday?
Haven't watched the tape yet. I'll do that today, but I thought Steele, as he said after the game, I thought he played better. I don't think he's Tyron Smith, but I think that what they've done, going back to last year when a lot of us were shocked, I put myself in the group, when they started Steele, when they had Tyron and they didn't have Collins. What Steele's done is with good coaching and his own hard work, he's gone from somebody that literally nobody heard of, except Texas Tech fans, into a serviceable player. And so he's the swing tackle going forward at worst. And kudos to him. That's all his hard work. So I thought that he played better. And again, he wasn't Tyron, but he was better. He was good enough to function. And what was the other one?
Without Gregory, pressure.
Armstrong, look, it's impossible to replace the kinds of player that Randy Gregory is. That's relentless pressure all the time that has quarterbacks and linemen all across the line, not just the tackle, because he'll drop down inside in the nickel or he'll stunt to the inside. And when you have a guy like that, offensive players are talking to themselves and looking literally over their shoulder. You can't replace that.
Well, they can. They just refuse to, right? They could do it with Micah, and they just refuse to do that.
Well,
get him.
In my opinion, that would be really stupid. That's not who Micah Parsons is. Micah Parsons is who you saw against Minnesota. If you want to put his hand on the ground and try to turn him into a pass rushing end, that would be like me trying to turn you into a ballerina.
You don't know how I can twinkle on my toes, Brad.
And not knowing any of that, I'll give you the occasional pas de deux. You might even be able to pull off a tutu from time to time, but it would not be the same, and it wouldn't be what you're supposed to be doing. That's not what Micah Parsons is. The fact that he was able to rush the passer occasionally, that's good. That's good. He can change up and employ some of his skills that allow him to rush the passer, because he doesn't put his hand in the ground and try to do that all the time. He's not built for it. He's built to do what he does. So when you have Gregory and Lawrence, it's different. When you don't have them, Armstrong's a good player. I thought that it made sense what I heard McCarthy say about him after the game, that because I forget too that he missed 4 games. He got hurt early and they didn't have him. And so he missed 4 games, and he was on IR. So when he came back last week, and we didn't even notice him, he was rusty, like Prescott was rusty last week. And nobody wants to say they were rusty, but he was. So he's intense, and the more he plays, he's a useful player. Dorance Armstrong's he's not a superstar. He's the kind of guy that you need about 5 or 6 of those guys on your team to win. So, and that's where Quinn comes in. So it'll be Armstrong, and he can't play every snap, so then Parsons will sub in and do some, and you'll use, Golston. I'd keep my eye on Chauncey Golston. We have to get a COVID test every week, regardless of vaccination status, to be able to get into the building and be near coaches and players for post-practice press conferences. So I was in the COVID the trailer, getting my test last week, and Golston was just happened to be in there, and he had a hoodie on, so I couldn't see his face at first, and I just walked in, and there was this absolute giant in front of me. I mean, he was like 8 feet tall, and then I realized it was him. That's what you saw on the ball that he knocked down from left defensive end yesterday. The beauty of him is that he was drafted to be Lawrence's backup. he's a Tank Lawrence starter set, and then he can play down inside too. And wait till you see what he develops into over time. But he's just like the rest of them. He's still figuring out by the rest of them. I mean, the rookies they've got. He's still trying to figure out where the food line is, and so he is already being useful. So you got him, and you've got Armstrong on the other side, and you got Basham, and they'll mix and match those guys and do the best they can. And hopefully in 2 more games, Gregory will be back, and now you'll have some versatility. But that's what the coaching staff has to do. They got to figure out how to use blitzes and change positions with guys. Armstrong's a useful player, and he's got an opportunity. He's not going to get six sacks in the 3 weeks that Gregory's out, but he can put some pressure on.
Jourdan Lewis and Dorance Armstrong, just as we all predicted, were the reason that the Cowboys kind of broke this game open. And I'm not kidding about that. Like, you look at the plays by Jourdan Lewis, especially the back-to-back pass breakups on 3rd down and on 4th down, after I realized that Atlanta had only scored 3 points. But that first drive, it was kind of scary when they just marched right down the field. Luckily, held them to a field goal. And then the second drive, they were doing a pretty good job of marching right back down the field after the Cowboys had been held to a 3-and-out. And you're like, oh no, is this going to be a battle for the day? And then bam! Jourdan Lewis, pass breakup on 3rd down, pass breakup on 4th down. Awesome back-to-back plays right there.
Yeah, I think that the secondary is good. I think we really look at what Diggs has done this season with his interceptions, and it's like that's a highlight, right? What Anthony Brown is kind of growing into on the other side is a lot of fun to watch. But has anybody really said we're going to try to abuse Jourdan Lewis all day? I think we've had one game this year where they said, all right, we're going to go after him a little bit. And I know I've seen moments where teams can, sure. But like what he did yesterday was he took it personally. He's quick. He's got these quick moves, his ability to knock that ball down with one hand. I thought he would intercept it because we saw that Michigan interception when he was in college, and it was the one-handed grab while he's laying on somebody, and it's the
most amazing interception I've ever seen.
Still to this day, it's awesome. But like what he did there on just knocking that one ball down was huge, and I thought that was momentum changing, like you're talking about there. And that's what you need. You need whenever a team says, you know what, we think that's our weak spot. We're going to go after this dude today. You need that guy to be able to say, not today. You're sorry. You made the wrong decision. I'm not the one.
And I started to think, like, you start to run across the players that honestly you think this season have had a huge, potentially game-changing impact, not just yesterday, but across the season. You can look at, obviously, your offensive linemen. You can look at clearly Dak, Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Zeke, and then defensively, Micah Parsons. We've talked about it. And now you look at yesterday, you add Jourdan Lewis, Dorance Armstrong. We already felt this way about Trayvon Diggs. You've probably felt that way about Anthony Brown in the past. I'm not saying they're all playmakers all the time, but it was really cool because Dorance Armstrong, before the block punt, which I know people are caught up on, he had an impressive sack as well to squash some Atlanta progress.
Let me ask this. And maybe we just forget things like this. We've had 2 block punts already this year, right? Or is it 3?
I think it's 2.
I think it's 3.
Oh, is it 3?
I think it might be.
Yeah. 3. Because 2 that felt good, felt good about, and the third one that you did not feel as good about.
In the 10 years that Jason Garrett was the head coach, and I know Mike McCarthy, he just hired Bones Fossil, and I know that Bones Fossil took a lot of heat, right, for last year, some decisions last year on special teams for early on this year.
And then heat earlier this year for, what was it, the 4th and 15, and you ran into the punter and you got a personal foul, and that ended up being a first down.
I thought the Cowboys fans wanted us to be aggressive.
So how are we doing this? If for a 10-year period I felt like we never blocked a punt, I'm sure we did. I'm sure there is a block punt under Jason Garrett, but it didn't feel like we really made much of an impact on special teams. There are times where Des Bryant would have a great return. I get that, but how are we doing this? How is Bones Fossil getting pressure on the punter on almost a weekly basis that you either get close to blocking one or you do block one? And I just find that amazing in today's NFL, where it feels like I had the comment weeks ago, and I'm going to be wrong about this. I admit I'm wrong about this. I thought, look, special teams isn't nearly that important. I feel like the punters are so great at getting off high punts that there's no returns, or they're able to put spin on the ball where, somehow they kick it and it hits the 5 and doesn't go forward. It just sticks or it comes back to get. And yet we're making these major impacts by blocking punts, and we're having some decent returns at times. And I just didn't feel like that was happening a lot under Jason Garrett.
I don't know if you feel this way, Corey, but we joked about it with Dorance Armstrong. I will once again give credit to the Joneses, who I thought were feeding me the company nonsense line of, oh, well, we got these new coordinators, or we did this and that, and like how that mindset changed across the building just with the hiring of a few people. But like the more you watch it, and to your point, Mike, the talent, some of it's different, but not like discernibly different.
Yeah, it's random. I mean, who is it? Basham, Dorance Armstrong, and one other person. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the 3 block punts.
Oh, the other block punt.
But
I'm not sure.
It's just like you're getting pressure a lot. It might have been Casey. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just trying to go off the top of my head. In fact, I asked on our Twitch channel, which is at 286 right now. I was like, did Garrett's teams block punts? And I'm just forgetting about it. But I mean, we're having these major block punts, and it just felt like, I don't know, it is a major change in possession when you can block a punt.
I have a couple of thoughts when it comes to it. A lot of, some people look at special teams, Mike, and they're like, I'm on this because I'm not good enough to be a starter. Or you have starters on there that are like, I'm here, but this doesn't matter to what I'm supposed to be doing on defense. And then on top of that, though, listening last week to who did block the punt last week? On that one where he's after the game, he was saying, I should have been doing this. The ball should have come off his foot in this way. Yeah. I would have had it. It sounds like they understand what they're supposed to be doing more, and the execution of it is we're going to be aggressive. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the way that Bones is teaching them and what they know they should be accomplishing. They're not just stumbling into block punts. They are actively doing this with good technique. And I think that's the difference. Is a lot of people, Choppy will say coaches don't matter. I think good coaching, whenever you have a player that's like, I've never done this before. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I've always been, athletic enough to get back there and do this. And he's like, no, but this is how you do it even better. I think that's one thing that goes into it. The other thing, too, is personnel. The personnel on this team, they discuss the ideas of getting, I keep going after this, longer, faster, stronger. We have guys that are faster, quicker, ability to get back there, and have the arm length to be able to block a punt. Like, all these little things really do matter.
Okay, and I thought some of those things were stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lie. When we were like, what the biggest problem on our team right now is arm length. I was like, that's dumb. Like, that is not the reason that you're losing these games. And I stand firm that alone was not the reason they were losing these games. But you take a look at some of the personnel changes, some of the coaching changes.
It was Malik Turner, by the way.
And maybe the focus on arm length. Yep. And maybe you can take all 3 of those things and combine them up, and you're like, that's the difference.
Yeah, I really do think the physical length and speed of the players. I heard Dan Quinn and Will McClay talk about this a lot, and it stuck with me for whatever reason. And now I'm observing it take part. But they talked about, and that Jourdan Lewis, by the way, long arms. They said that's why they took him, even though he was shorter. But they kept saying, the field is so many, however many feet long, however many, feet wide, and all this. Well, if you have a longer player, it makes the angles different that players have to go at. It just makes the field just a little bit different because you have a bigger player taking up a different space. It sounds weird, but that's one of the big factors. They changed a lot of their personnel, and they said they had to get better on defense, and they got better at special teams while they were at it this offseason.
I'm terribly impressed. I know Steven will be glad to talk about Dorance Armstrong. I know we're all excited about that.
I kind of felt like last year he was in on the bit too. He was like, I don't really know where Jerry's going with this, but I'm gonna play along and see how it goes.
So, and then a couple of other things, and I got this from Mark Lane, and this is terribly impressive to me, is this is the 4th time since 1992 that the Cowboys have had 3 or more takeaways and held their opponents to less than 9% third down conversion rate. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you hold your opponent to 9% or lower on third down conversion rate, you should always win the game. Although I know there was that one game where, who were we playing when they didn't get to third down until like halfway through the second quarter? So if something catastrophic like that happens.
It was the Chargers.
And Corey.
Oh, no.
2 of those games took place in 1992. Now, it's a really weird 4-pack of games because I want to know more about what the hell happened in this 2005 game, because here are the 4 games since 1992 where the Cowboys have held their opponents below 9% conversion rate on third down and had 3 or more takeaways. October 11th, 1992, you beat Seattle 27-0. Great. Huge win. Makes sense. November 8th, 1992.
Like Mark McGuire's brother was the quarterback or something.
Dan McGuire, yeah. You beat Detroit 37-3. Makes sense. Giant victory. Yesterday, 43-3. Makes sense. Giant victory. October 16th, 2005. You beat the Giants 16-13 in overtime. How the hell did that game go to overtime if you forced 3 turnovers and they had less than 9% conversion rate?
Man,
Is that Drew Bledsoe or Vinny Testaverde?
I think Jeremy Shockey, that was Drew Bledsoe. I think Jeremy Shockey had like a late touchdown to tie that sucker up. But Keyshawn Johnson had 8 catches for 120 yards in that game. Anthony Thomas was your leading running back, Kevin, with 21 carries and 47 yards. Yeah, do you remember he used to play here? So, like, there were lots of things.
21 for 47 lets me know why that didn't work
Drew
out.
Bledsoe had 2 lost fumbles in that game. So, like, that, I think there's a lot of stuff. Like, it was a sloppy game by both
He
sides.
had 20 carries for 40 yards. In that last one, we finally got 7.
See, in my mind, I was picturing he had 15 carries for 15 yards and then broke it open in the
it took
fourth.
the 21st carries where we broke out and got 7 per carry.
And I mean, I'll add this, Kevin, because I'm assuming because it was 16-13 that there was a touchdown late. I don't know exactly what happened there, but your kicker Jose Cortez 3 for 5 from the field goal percentage there. So it wasn't a good game at all,
That's
Kevin.
so great. Well, at least we won.
I think it was at that game actually. Now that I think about it, I was covering that game for the Cowboys. Yeah.
Okay.
What I wanted to do was, I think after any football game, you can do a thing where you talk about your takeaways and just say, hey, the guy who played really well played really well. Hey, the guy who played really well over here played really well. Hell, that's tomorrow at 4:20. That's the stars of the game.
Yes, sir.
But thinking about it big picture wise and the most important takeaways, I did think that there were 3, and I thought it up this morning. There's a video on 1053thefan.com of it, but that's just me talking. This is all 3 of us, which was infinitely better. So welcome to it. Number 1, are you guys familiar with an NFL team called the Denver Broncos?
I've tried to expel that from my memory.
All right, well, they got a coach. His name is Vic Fangio.
Yes, sir.
And he said, everybody's been playing the Cowboys wrong. I played them right. That's why we kicked their butt. I'm so smart, and they can't beat us because I'm amazing. Take away the run, man defense. I dare you. And so that became a thing on like the TV networks and all that, where it's like, is this the blueprint? Do you just put your jobber corner and man coverage on CeeDee Lamb and say Dak's not very good?
Yeah.
Is that the plan? The answer this week, and they found it out in about 1 drive, maybe 2 drives. Maybe Brian from the press box can tell me when they pulled the ripcord. But Atlanta figured out real quick, that's not the plan. No, they just played like butt last week. So that was takeaway number 1 for me, is don't worry about Vic Fangio having the blueprint to beat down the Dallas Cowboys. The blueprint is not Dak's not that good and the receivers aren't going to get open. That ain't the blueprint.
The Falcons knew they were in trouble when Avery Williams, their nickel, couldn't cover CD.
Yeah.
That's when they knew it. Those guys leaned over and said, we're doomed now. Our plan is to try and hopefully that Avery Williams can handle this. They really like him out of Boise and stuff like that. He's a rookie. They feel like he can grow, but the assignment was just too big for him.
Yeah, there's no kryptonite. I think that is a really good point. I still think it's probably your best shot. And for bad teams,
because at least you're making them put the ball at risk.
Yeah. There. If you're having them throw it 30 yards, there can be overthrows. There can be a pick that changes things. If you're a bad team and you try it, you're probably going to lose by 35, though. Right?
Yes.
It's still your best shot, but it's we're just going to try something that might work.
You have to hope for drops in the NFL nowadays. Seriously, and that's how if you go back and watch Atlanta and how they beat the Saints. The Saints dropped the ball, much like Dallas dropped the ball against Denver. That's your best defender in the NFL today, are drop passes. And it happens. It happened in third down for Atlanta. They're kind of maybe trying to get back in the thing, a little momentum. What happened? They get a drop. That just kills drives. So yeah, that was tough for them. They didn't have the personnel to do what they needed to do, and they have absolutely no pass rush.
I'm told on the text, the Autoflex Leasing fan text, that Mike Bassick of the KNC Masterpiece, which you can hear right here on the Fan from 10 to 2 every day, got the Twitch following. He had 450 live viewers going. So I'd like to break that record. Just going to throw that out here now. Twitch.tv/DallasFanCam. If you're not currently in a vehicle, if you're at a place where you have access to a smartphone or a computer, hop on in and join us at twitch.tv/DallasFanCam. There's levels to being a Tolo. You can be a Tolo, a turn it on, leave it on listener. You can be a Twolo, the Twitch on, leave on listener. Don't worry about that. But get up in there. We're at 243. That number's not low enough. KNC is not going to out Twolo us. It's not going to happen.
Twitch it on, leave it on.
Get up in here, folks. Takeaway number 2.
Yeah.
That mattered from this game. Lyle Collins is back. If you were worried if he's any good, he's really good. The thing that jumps out when I watch Lyle Collins play right tackle versus maybe anybody in the league, much less a guy who is a quality backup in Terrence Steele, my goodness, Lyle Collins is still a people mover.
Yeah.
When you run the ball, you don't want to be the guy in front of Lyle Collins when it's a run play, because you will not win that rep. You will be put wherever he wants to put you. That is a people mover.
It's amazing how much power they have on the right side and no power on the left side. It's like a really bad imbalance.
Martin and Lyle.
Yeah, it's like living in Green Bay when it's minus 28 and living in Dallas when it's 82 degrees. I mean, it's so different. But yeah, no, it is, and you get a lot out of Martin and Collins being on the same side, because they're going to get movement in the running game.
Let me because you just mentioned that, I tee off on Pro Football Focus's grading scale when it comes to coverage all the time, but when it comes to run blocking, their number 1 graded tackle is Lyle Collins. Their number 1 graded guard is Zach Martin.
Yeah.
They play next to each other.
They play absolutely next to each other.
It's going to get fun. Get Tyron back. This team hadn't even had nearly the whole team.
They haven't at all.
You just got Gallup back. Now you're missing both defensive ends. You didn't have LC. You don't have Tyron this week. You lose Dak that week. Tank's been gone forever. You haven't even had your team yet, and you're fighting for the 1 seed.
This might be, and it might be the one time you need it. I know Kansas City's struggling defensively, but anyway, to me, could be the first week where you have all 5 of your offensive linemen together at the same time.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, and it only took you to get to week 11 before that happened.
Now, everybody, this isn't a takeaway of mine, but everybody on the internet is trying to bench Connor Williams. Are you trying to bench Connor Williams?
I don't think so.
Trying to get Connor McGovern in there?
I think the thing with Connor McGovern is they're just not going to play him. They have a they have a problem with him. And I mean, they like the fact that they can use him in a lot of different roles, but he had a holding call yesterday too. His holding call was really, really bad too, by the way. I mean, the way it came off.
Yeah.
But they have that is to me a coaching issue there more than it is anything, I believe.
That they can't develop McGovern?
No, that they don't want to play him.
Oh, they don't want to play him.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. They just don't like him because
there's
our understanding was
there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things when you're talking about offensive line play.
Yeah,
technique. Do you know your assignments?
Yeah,
these are all things that you can come in. Do they feel confident that they can put you in there? That with all things happen, everything flying fast and furious, that you're not going to be able to pick everything up.
You hear what he's saying, Gavin, about McGovern?
He's somehow worse than Connor Williams.
You hear what he's saying?
It's crazy. We're going to watch a guy break the record for most penalties at left guard in the history of the league.
That is a possibility. I mean, again, you go through every possibility of why they wouldn't want to play a guy. And I gave you a couple. Your technique's not any good, and you don't understand what you need to do.
The Brian brought us emoji on our Twitch channel. It's really awesome. It's your happy face from our team photo, and it's just a really good angle, right amount of shine, good smile. Twitch.tv/DallasFanCam. We're almost over 300. Get up in here.
Yeah.
Next takeaway from this game. Which ones have I done?
Lyle and Kryptonite.
Yep. This one's for Gavin.
Bring it.
I hinted at it earlier, and different nerds that I like to see what they're up to on the tweeter machine come up with different ways to measure offensive and defensive play. And a couple of them that I saw today and I really thoroughly enjoyed is, trying to figure out you're through 9 games, 10 weeks of an NFL season, and this defense is like, hey, they're awesome. What? They're terrible. Hey, they were forcing a ton of turnovers. So, how good are they actually? My guy, Pro Football Focus Moo, M-O-O, Moo. I like charts. So if you go to @JC1053, I retweeted a chart.
Oh, I saw that earlier.
Love a good chart.
Did. Yep.
So it's NFL team tiers. And what he's doing is team strength measured on a per-play basis and adjusted for what schedule you've played. So if you've played harder teams, you get more credit. And it's based on per play. How well do you do offense, defense, blah. And so when you go to the right on the chart, on the right, the Dallas Cowboys are the furthest team to the right, which is offensive strength. So they're saying you are the best offense in football when you adjust for things. What's really fun is when you go, okay, but what about the old up and down side? Because the up and down side is your defensive strength. Buffalo is I like that they use the team's logos. So the Buffalo logo is the highest up. Mm-hmm. They're not quite as good at offense as you are, but they're up there as the top defense. Carolina is the second defense. Arizona is third. New England is fourth. Dallas is fifth.
Let's go.
So I don't know exactly what metric he's using here, but in whatever way that the analytics guy at PFF wants to measure it, he's saying the Cowboys have been the fifth best defense this year. Looked at my guy Ben Baldwin, who writes for The Athletic, and his was a little different, where I think the Cowboys were third on offense, but they were, again, fifth on defense. So all the nerd stuff, when you say, hey, we've played 10 weeks of the year, forget trying to define things in these little tiny spaces. Let's take the whole thing. And how have they played? For a lot of the nerd stuff, the answer is the Cowboys are a top 6 defense, which that's pretty darn good. So that's my third takeaway from the game, is that on the whole, your defense might actually be pretty darn good.
What are the nerds? Do we know the nerd categories? Like, is it
I know one of the big ones. One
hits,
of the big ones is EPA per play. So it's like if it's 1st and 10 and you run for a yard, your expected points added is going to be negative because you don't have a better chance of getting a first down. If it's 3rd and 1 and you gain a yard and you get the first down, that's a positive expected points added because you achieved the goal. So it's just, do you do a good job of achieving your goal per play? And the Cowboys do really well in that regard.
Yeah, it's funny because the Cowboys, to a nerd on defense, are really, really bad. Because they as of before yesterday, they were giving up 6.3 yards per play on first down, and and that was 30th.
That's
in the
not
league.
good. Yeah.
So there must be some other categories.
Obviously turnovers are a giant expected point added when you kill a team's drive, and it gives you good field
And the
position.
last 3 weeks, you've been just stellar on,
third downs.
Single digits on third downs.
Third downs are pretty good. So, there's that as well.
They do some things well, but some things, tragically bad in the wrong moments. So I don't know. Part of me wants to say this is more proof that you can't play football on a calculator, but I think there's something to it. I definitely think there's something to it.
And my favorite stat from the game is, let's compare total QBR of the two starting quarterbacks. Would anybody like to guess Matt Ryan's total QBR in the Cowboys and Falcons game? Now, total QBR only goes up to 100. This is not QB rating where you can get up to 158.3 or whatever.
Yeah.
This is total QBR where a lot of times the league leader ends in the low to mid 70s, I think.
Okay.
So that's your scale.
I say that he is probably, let's go with 16.
Oh, a 16. That would be a low number.
Yep.
That would be a pretty darn low number.
Yep.
For the week or
for the game? Yeah. This is just our head-to-head matchup.
I don't know
These two quarterbacks.
I just guessed 16 because I know his quarterback rating because it was 21.6, I think is what it was.
Oh, so his QB
or it was 21.4. It was
21. Ryan's, it was the lowest of his career.
That's a bad QB rating.
It was that. It was
That's
21.
bad.
It was 21.4 in the game yesterday.
Okay.
So I went 16 just to be, I don't know.
That's a good way to do it, though. You take QB rating, you go a little lower, you have the right idea.
Yeah.
You have the right idea.
So I'm picking Dax or Ryan's?
Matt Ryan's first.
His ranking.
His total QBR on a scale of 0 to 100.
14.
He had a 9.1. It was the second worst in the league this week, behind Colt McCoy, who managed to put up a 4.5.
And got hurt, too, by the way.
In their loss to Carolina.
Yeah.
What was Dak? It was 9.1 versus Dak's number.
87.
I know this okay, he was 127. I'm going to guess he was probably, I like what General's doing, 84.
93.4. It was the best quarterback of the week against the second worst quarterback of the week. And if you believe in math, it would tell you that Dak was 10.5 times better than Matt Ryan.
Man, that's awesome. I was nervous that you were going to say he was middle of the pack or something after I called him a Hall of Famer last segment.
No, he did well this week.
My eyes did not deceive me.
He didn't have a turnover on either goal line. That's good for QBR.
I thought nerd like air yards per attempt or something might come back and sabotage me on that one, but I'm glad the calculator agrees.
Yep. Mm-hmm.